Yo, what is going on, everybody? It's Brave Cat here once again with another Frontier Signals update. So when it comes to the space weather side, things have been pretty quiet here, and we're still going to be monitoring the sunspots. So luckily this website exists because other than that, having the partial government shutdown or whatever, most of the main sources for space weather are down, which is primarily SDO and a couple other things. But we can see here on the far side of this region is still slowly coming in here, and we have this isolated sunspot group coming from that region, and behind that there's nothing as of yet. But if we look on here, we can see on the latest image, so here's kind of the newest sunspot group arising, and just behind it, it does look like there is some more bright active regions behind it. So there's still potential for more sunspots to come into view. And, that's kind of where that's sitting at. But as of right now, there's not really much going on here, which is still a good thing. So I think the main things I want to cover for today here is going to be going on with, again, the wildfires, as well as the oil shenanigans going on. So I've still been looking at this fire map here. It looks like this really big fire has finally been contained, not after burning 600,000 acres of primarily cattle land and some farmland. Still ongoing fires in some of these other locations, especially down here in Kansas and Oklahoma. There's just a lot of scattered random fires going on here. Usually kind of in the 1 to 2,000 acre range, but we got some smaller ones as well. And I was trying to compare that to this other map because, well, just to make some correlations here. So this is a map of foreign owned land, primarily farmland. So, when we look at the same areas, Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma, well, I kind of noticed that a lot of the areas that have seen the major fires break out have been in areas not owned by some sort of foreign agency. And then we also have to remember that Bill Gates owns close to 250,000 acres of farmland right now. Why does he need all that? Who knows? Well, we know what he wants to do. He wants, part of that World Economic Forum global agenda. Take over the farmland, lab-grown meat, all that fun stuff here. And if you've heard about the horrible coating that he's been putting on different produce, it's pretty alarming. And, what I'm really getting at here between the fires and we also have all of the oil strikes that have been going on, something's coming down the pipeline, and it's not good, all right? So just in terms of this, here we have Ukraine and Russia. A lot of stuff has been going on there in terms of targeting different oil refineries and pipelines. Then, of course, we have the stuff going on in Iran. A lot of stuff going on there. And then we have really the only thing in the US that's been reported so far is the thing that happened in Texas, where there was an explosion reported there and an entire, oil refinery on fire. So again, if we continue to see this trend, then that's not going to be a good thing. That is multiple crucial parts of the supply chain and the, fuel industry just going down. And, there's already been preliminary reports and ideas of, some sort of fuel lockdown, making people stay in their homes, travel less, so on and so forth. So, just be wary of that. And, this also ties into the food chain, obviously, with farmland being set on fire. And there's a lot of fires going on here that are a little more sparse, but again, potentially a little more targeted. Those mom and pop farmers and whatnot that have refused to sell their land to some sort of conglomerate. Those people could be getting targeted by some of these things. You never know. So really just keep an eye out on that. And looking at the earthquakes. So we are looking at everything 3.0 and above in the last 7 days, just to take a look at all of the activity that has transpired. Had an influx of activity here in South America, a lot of it being somewhat deep activity, and there's a lot of magma chambers in these areas as well underneath those mountains. And then of course we have what has been going on between New Zealand and Fiji. So we've had multiple 6s, we've had a somewhat deep 7.5, a lot of other deeper 3s, 4s, and 5s. Had the 6 here, and of course there was also a 6 down here, which only shows up on the global incident map. So we have the 6s, the deep 7, you go down south close to New Zealand, and there's actually a 6 down here that struck that is not reported by the USGS. Just have to point that out. So a lot of this pressure is just kind of making its way around, all the way around the Indo-Australian plate, even down here in the Indian Ocean. And quite a bit of stuff starting to stack up here in the North Pacific, and it is now starting to come down to the West Coast. So just in the last several days here, we've had a couple of 4s striking off the coast here, up in Canada, going down into Washington. And again, got to keep an eye out for San Francisco, where we see, the ongoing tremor swarm here. And we've had some 3s pop off of there as well. And let's see here, we've had a 3 down here. And of course, more activity going on in Texas. Once it gets into the 3 range over here, it gets to be a little bit strange. And some of that actually is in New Mexico. But, if I had to guess, I would say even this 2.9 is being reported as New Mexico. Go figure. And take things over here to Italy, where, we've had 4s and 5s striking in Europe in general, especially over here by Greece. But we have another 4 that struck here, up kind of in the northwestern side where these mountain ranges are. And of course, that 4 is not being reported on this chart here, so we're still at 75 earthquakes magnitude 3 or greater. So, again, they're not reflecting the data properly in this chart, and I think it's probably should be significantly higher than that. Again, I'm pretty sure we're supposed to be seeing a spike similar to what we see here for this year, because so far things have escalated quite a bit, and that is simply not being properly reflected in the data chart there. And other than that, the volcanoes have been pretty steady doing what they're doing. Don't see anything weird or anything unusual here. Nothing has gone down though. Everything has remained pretty much at the levels that they've been at. And with that, I think that'll pretty much do it for today's video. Try to make it a little bit snappy for this one. So I'm going to be getting back to developing this website. And of course, I still need to post the last 2 papers here for the historical catastrophist papers here. So again, these are going all the way back to the 1600s. Various philosophers, scientists, and people of all sorts of institutions around the world. Mostly in Europe, obviously, throughout the 16 and 1700s. But then things really get interesting when we get into more modern day, and the intersection here between the historical side and the more modern side, which will be coming soon. We have an entire paper just dedicated to Einstein and Charles Hapgood, because that really kind of lays down the foundation for more modern findings. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit, make it a little bit more readable, as well as try to come out with some audio versions for these things, so it's a little bit easier to digest. So anyways, hope y'all enjoyed this one, got something out of it. Please like and subscribe for more. Share this video if you dare, and I'll catch you all in the next.